So, the first season of Andor really focused on the Imperial Security Bureau, a key element of the Imperial sort of intelligence system. But today I want to discuss some of the key differences between two major aspects of that system, Imperial Intelligence and the ISB. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't the ISB Imperial Intelligence? Aren't they basically the same thing? The ISB seems to do all of the intelligence work for the Galactic Empire, and, well, that is understandable, basically the way it's been portrayed on screen. The actual canon facts are that they are two very different organizations with two very different and competing goals that are constantly trying to one-up each other in their capabilities, and ultimately, the fact that they were two separate agencies might have been a key part of why the Empire failed to counter the Rebel Alliance. So today I want to focus on the differences between those two organizations and why that may have affected the outcome of the Galactic Civil War. So to understand the differences and the effects that these differences had, we have to first understand the roles that these two agencies were designed to fill. The Imperial Security Bureau was tasked with dealing with civilian threats to the Empire. These are individuals speaking out against the Empire very publicly, small homegrown militias that pose a threat but aren't overly organized, and threats to civilian and sort of industrial elements that don't directly affect the Imperial military, so attacks on factories and civil government installations, as well as, like I said, mouthy senators who talk out against the Empire or things of that matter. Meanwhile, Imperial Intelligence is a military installation tied directly to the Imperial military and actually under a branch of the Imperial military. They directly serve the military needs of the Imperial military, focusing on military threats. Threats from both within the Imperial military, the threat of something like a coup, and from outside of the organization, like a militant group that was organized and did pose a direct threat. This distinction will come into play later, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. But the Imperial Intelligence itself was tasked more with dealing with direct threats, so things attacking military installations, things attacking military contractors that were producing equipment for the Imperial military, things directly threatening the military dominance of the Empire in a force-for-force element, and they would eventually take point in dealing with the Rebel Alliance, but that wouldn't be immediately. Because of the way the Rebel Alliance started as a bunch of small independent uprisings and small groups, militias for example, who took objection to the Galactic Empire, standing up and sort of providing opposition to Imperial operations. And initially that would fall under the purview of the ISB, who would deal with them as small civilian militias or individuals who are outspoken against the Empire. But at some point that transitions from the ISB's realm to the realm of Imperial Intelligence once they become a legitimate military organization, posing a legitimate military threat. Now, the question becomes, where does that transition happen, and how effectively does it happen? In a perfect system, it would simply be, okay, here's the files, you take over from here, but this isn't a perfect system. The Empire is firmly competitive with itself. Within every branch of the Imperial government, there are individuals vying for control, vying for power, and vying for prestige, and that's no different within these intelligence agencies, especially in between the two of them. Both intelligence agencies, the ISB and Imperial Intelligence, have relatively low opinions of the other, so the idea of willingly handing over your case to the other agency was not necessarily very popular. As such, it was rather common for one agency to drag their feet when informing the other of an ongoing situation that might be more in their purview than the others. On top of that, to be a particular stinging situation to Imperial Intelligence, the ISB at the start of the reign of the Empire was very small, just a few small teams designed to deal with smaller threats. But as the Empire settled into a more peacetime operational stance, the military threats to the Empire became less and less common, and the civilian threats became more and more common. As such, the apparatuses of Imperial Intelligence shrunk, while the ISB swelled in size to be the larger of the two organizations. Now, understandably, those in Imperial Intelligence might have been a little bit salty about this, and that led to even more friction between the two agencies, which does become a problem when you're dealing with threats that transition from one agency's purview to the other, which is one of the reasons why the Empire maybe was a little bit slow to react to the growing Rebel alliance. That being said, both of them still pose a significant threat to Rebel factions, and as we see in Andor, the Imperial Security Bureau is still taking point at that point in history in pursuing Rebel action, since they do still appear to be relatively disorganized. If you'd like to learn more about the ISB in particular, how the ISB works, and its role within the Imperial government in a much more sort of focused video, I'll leave a link up here to a video I did back during Andor Season 1 discussing exactly what the ISB is and the role they play in the Imperial government. And I'd like you to let me know down in the comments whether you think it makes sense to have these be two separate organizations. After all, one could look at it as being similar to, say, the CIA and the FBI in real life, but at the same time, the Galactic Empire doesn't necessarily have any other state actors to contend with. They generally have this overwhelming majority of the galaxy directly under their control, so does it make sense to have a dedicated segment of your intelligence apparatus designed to deal with military threats when there really aren't that many? And if you have anything else you'd like to see me cover in Star Wars or anywhere else in science fiction, you can let me know down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.